Hey guys, Mr. T here for another ranking video. If you haven't seen it, I started a little mini series where I rank my top 10 favorite Pokemon by each generation, and it got me thinking. One of the biggest indicators of a generation of Pokemon is its starters. Its starters usually set the tone, and there's a lot of things about the starter trio that really opens up the possibility, or it really makes people you know, want the game or not want the game. It just there's a huge thing, and it's interesting because it's like the introduction of a starter trio when I was younger. That was like big news for us when we were kids. I mean, it was like the thing you were waiting for was the official announcement of the new starters. And I feel like Pokemon fans today, especially the younger ones, they just don't care. And I'm sitting here thinking, I said this in a previous video, I think the biggest people who hate Pokemon are supposed to be Pokemon fans. And they just find every reason to hate it. It's like, if it's not 100% perfect, they don't like it. And I'm like, guys, come on. And I know some people who bash on some of the starters, especially the newer ones, and they just go on and on about how this one's bad or this one's bad and this, that, and the other. And honestly, yeah, some starters could have been better, but all the starters are great in their own way. So I've already ranked my favorite starter from each generation, or how I would rank the three starters from each generation. This video is ranking the trio as a whole. So I'm going to be ranking each generation's starter trio as a whole. And it's only mainline games. So I'm not doing Arceus or Pokemon ZA, or I'm not doing like the Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu and all that. It's only the mainline generation games. So the actual Fire, Water, and Grass trios. So the big rule is I am ranking them based on the stage one, the trio themselves, the actual starters. I'm not basing it on the evolution, and I'm not basing it on individuals. It is how much I like the trio together as a whole. Some of these Pokemon individually might be higher, or they might even be lower, but when you put them all together, that's what I'm ranking today. And I know some of you might not agree with this list, because I know some of you, my first one, my last one, my number 9, might actually throw a lot of people off. So let's go ahead and dive in. So my least favorite trio, and again, these guys aren't horrible. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't mind them. I actually like them as trios. I think they're great. They probably could have even been number 8. But my least favorite would have to be the Unova, Gen 5. I mean, I don't know why I'm honest. Tepig isn't bad. I actually kind of have started liking him because of Legend ZA. Snivy or Snivy or however you want to put him. He's great. Oshawott, honestly, I probably should have swapped Oshawott and Tepig just because of Legend ZA. They're not bad. I've said this in previous videos. Pokemon Black and White came out around the time I had dropped in my love of Pokemon, and it's around that time period where I was really into like Call of Duty and first person shooters and stuff like that. So I really wasn't into Pokemon. That was probably the point in my life where I was the least into Pokemon. It wasn't until Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire came out that I really got back into Pokemon because of Ruby and Sapphire. So with that being said, the Gen 5 Pokemon, again, there's nothing like overly wrong with them. I just think there's better generations out there. Right? Now, for my number 8, my second least favorite, honestly, I probably could have swapped these two, Unova and my next one, but my number 8 is the Alola. Again, it's one of those where I don't hate them. I think they're great. I don't know why I keep yawning. Poplio's great. Litten is really cool. I'm not a big fan of Incineroar, but Rowlet's great. I love Hisui and Decidueye. Oh, he's such a cool Pokemon. But these guys as a whole, again, it goes back into the Unova part. They're not bad. I just think there's better ones out there. Plus, the Alola games, Sun and Moon, I really didn't like them or get into them too much. The thing I hated about Sun and Moon, and then Black and White. Black and White started it. Sun and Moon kind of picked it up. X and Y really didn't do it because of the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. That was the thing. But I hated how they shifted away from that third game. So they would release the original two, so like blue and or red and blue, and then gold and silver and stuff. And then they would release a third game that kind of combined them. So then you'd have yellow version, and then crystal, and then emerald, and then you would have platinum. Black and white just released a black 2 and white 2. And then they did it again with Alola. They did Sun and Moon and then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And I hated that concept. I actually thought it was such a stupid concept. I really wish they would have given us like black and white and then like gray or something. Or Sun and Moon and then like Eclipse, or something like that. I just thought it could have been a lot better. I do, but it's just one of those things where, plus I hated the Alola region because there was no gyms. So, but yeah, I think the games and the timing kind of put these guys a little lower on my list, but they're not bad. There's just better ones out there. And then my next one is my number 7 is Gen 6 Kalos. Again, all three of these games probably could have swapped around a bit. Like I think Gen 6 Kalos definitely would be higher than the other two, but they're all close. Again, it's that time period of my life where I kind of took a step back from Pokemon. This era of Pokemon, the only games I really played religiously was Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which are remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. But again, I like these Pokemon. I love Fennekin. Froakie is great. Chespin's okay. But, I mean, they're good, solid Pokemon. I'm not saying there's anything, like, overtly wrong with them. I think they're great designs. I just think there's better ones out there. You know what I mean? So, now for my number 6, I actually loved this game, and some of my favorite Pokemon actually come from this game. I just think the trio is amazing. It's just, again, there's better ones out there. And that kind of is the overlying trend or theme here. And my number 6 is the Gen 4, the Sinnoh. I know some people are saying this is sacrilege. They would probably put these guys at like 1 or 2 or something. So wait till you see who my 1 and my 2 are. Some of you might agree with my number 1, though. I don't know. Again, I almost swapped these guys with my number 5. So I'll even just show you. My number 5 is Gen 2 Johto. And I almost swapped them. I actually had Gen 4 above Johto, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I love Chimchar, Turtwig, and Piplup. They're great, but Chikorita is my second favorite starter of all time. Totodile is awesome. I love Totodile. So much better than Piplup. Piplup's still great, don't get me wrong, but Totodile is better. And while I hate Typhlosion, Cyndaquil is really cool. Plus, Ash's Cyndaquil was such a cool Pokemon. So I just felt like when I really, really thought about it, Johto did get the higher one. Again, Sinnoh is great. These three are great. Awesome Pokemon. Amazing trio. But I do think these three are the better trio of between those two. Now, I know I'm probably going to get some flack for having these ones so high on my list, in the top 4. But you know what? If you take away the hate goggles that a lot of modern day Pokemon fans have, and I hate that people are like, people hate the games before they even come out. Like, I've seen so many people hating on Legend ZA, and it's actually a really good game. Especially the fact that it's a side game. They're expecting main game energy, and it's not a main game, it's a side game. So I don't care. I think these games were great. I think these Pokemon are amazing. I think these Pokedexes were amazing and had some amazing additions to the Pokemon world. So my number 4 is Galar Gen 8. The only thing that's actually stopping them from being my top 3 was Sobel. I don't hate Sobel. He's cool, but he is a little bit lower on my list. If Sobel was a little bit better, I think Scorbunny and Grookey would have been able to surpass my number 3, which, let's be honest, you probably already know who it is because you know who my number 1 and my number 2 are. You might not know my order for my number 1 and 2, but you at least know who's up there. But my number 3 would be Gen 9 Paldea. And again, these two generations, I think they were amazing. I think Sword and Shield and then Scarlet and Violet were so much better than people gave them out to be. I think Scarlet and Violet was great with its open world. 99% of the complaints about glitches and stuff, I never saw myself. Pokemon seemed to patch them, and Nintendo seemed to patch them right away. A lot of my complaints with Paldea and Scarlet and Violet were more mechanical issues. And one of the biggest complaints I have was they took away the mechanic to catch Pokemon outside of battle. That was one thing I hated. They went backwards from Legends Arceus. I'm so hoping that in Gen 10 they keep that feature because they brought it back for Legends ZA. So I'm really hoping they don't keep that a Legends only mechanic. I hope they do introduce it into the mainline games. But otherwise, Scarlet and Violet was fun. Sword and Shield was amazing. Honestly, I would probably put Sword and Shield as my second favorite Pokemon games of all time, only after the Omega Ruby series, or Ruby and Sapphire, and then obviously Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But I think these Pokemon are great. These starter trios are amazing. Now for my top two, I'm sure most of you going into this already knew who the top two would be. You were probably guessing on the order, and some of you might be shocked about this, but some of you might not if you know me well enough. My number two is not Hoenn, it's Kanto. I know some of you are probably screaming that's sacrilege. Some of you might actually agree with me because a lot of people love the Hoenn region. The biggest one bringing this group down is Bulbasaur. Again, I don't hate Bulbasaur. It's my son's favorite Pokemon. But for as much as I love Squirtle and Charmander, and again, don't get me wrong, Squirtle is my favorite starter. Charmander is like my top 3, top 4. Again, when we're ranking just the starters, the actual trio, the ones you see on the screen right now, we're not taking Blastoise or Charizard or any of them into consideration. I do think Hoenn is better. Hoenn has probably the best Pokedex, foreshadowing from my miniseries, and I think they cooked with these starters. I mean, Torchic, Mudkip, and Trico are phenomenal Pokemon. I mean, I cannot see anything wrong with these 3 Pokemon. They maybe could have given Torchic a little bit more fluff around his feathers, but these 3 Pokemon, they cooked. And don't get me wrong, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander are also phenomenal Pokemon. I think Pokemon, they set the gold standard for them. But I just think Hoenn was better when it comes to the trio. You know, and I know some people might give some flack. Some people might not because a lot of people like Ruby and Sapphire. But I think this trio is the best. I don't think Pokemon is ever going to outdo themselves like they did in Hoenn. I honestly think Kanto and Hoenn are going to continuously stay the top 2. But I like the Hoenn trio better than the Kanto trio. Again, it's close. Don't get me wrong. It is a very close, race. But I just think Hoenn is amazing. Plus, I do have to bring up the fact that Ruby and Sapphire, when they came out, that was the time period of my life where I skyrocketed with Pokemon. When Red and Blue came out, I was a little bit younger, 4, 5, 6 years old. Johto came out, I was like, end of my single digits. But when I was like 10, 11, 12, that's when Ruby and Sapphire came out, and I really got into Pokemon. Like, really got into it. That's when I started collecting cards more. That's when I started, really getting into the card game. I got Ruby and Sapphire were my first games on the Game Boy Advance. Actually, my mom bought me a Game Boy Advance for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. So, I think that kind of added to it, but I just think these are awesome Pokemon. So, all right, well, I hope you liked the video. Hope I wasn't too controversial. Hope you maybe even agreed with me, especially maybe even on Paldea and Galar. Let's spread some love to the newer games. They're a lot better than people make them out to be. And yeah, stick around for my mini-series, and my next video will probably be the next one in my mini-series, but I also do have some non-Pokemon videos coming up too. So, as always, stay beautiful, Americans, and peace.